Thank you very much. You may have your seats. And now for the Parade of Nations from the Seventh-day Adventist Pathfinders and the Master Guides.
more than 100 years in aviation, and throughout this rich history, aviation still remains an indispensable mode of transportation, connecting our people, goods, communities, and cultures within Guyana and the rest of the world. There are more than 100 airstrips spread across our 83,000 square miles. Many serve as linkages between coastal and hinterland regions. These facilities are a testament to aviation's vital importance here in Guyana. International airports in Guyana. The Cheddi-Jagan International Airport, the main international airport for long-haul flights, and the Eugene F. Correa International Airport, our main regional and domestic airport. The government of Guyana is presently undertaking a pre-feasibility study for the transformation of Lethem Aerodrome into an international airport. This will facilitate regional flights from northern Brazil and the Caribbean. The aviation sector has seen the growth in domestic commercial operators, with more than 70 light aircraft and 400 plus licensed personnel working together to facilitate the movement of 160,000 passengers annually within Guyana and moving 18 million kilograms of cargo. Aviation is a significant contributor to the national development, creating approximately $100 million in economic activities. This contributes 3.2% to Guyana's gross domestic product annually. In Guyana, aviation is responsible for the creation of 12,000 jobs and accounts for approximately 1 in every 20 jobs here. It is our vision to create a modern civil aviation sector that promotes and facilitates the development of this beautiful land. While we do not possess all the solutions to the challenges we face, we believe in the trajectory of our strategy. The government, with the support from the International Development Bank, is working on a civil aviation master plan. This will improve civil aviation oversight here and structure development over the next 20 years. The master plan will include a national air transport plan, a national airspace plan, a national airport plan, and the national plan for the administration of the civil aviation by GCAA. This strategy is complemented by a modern civil aviation bill soon to be passed in the National Assembly and will replace the Civil Aviation Act of 2000. Within the next 2 years, the construction of a green, modern civil aviation headquarters is slated for completion. In November 2016, after an ICAO coordinated validation mission, Guyana's compliance level with ICAO standards and recommended practices increased from 44% to 64%, an achievement that was rewarded with Guyana receiving the ICAO Council President Award for the most improved state for compliance with ICAO. Over the last 5 years, there has been constant growth in international passenger traffic, and 2017 saw the highest passenger movement to date, a significant 664,624 passengers. And with Guyana's open skies policy, this traffic is projected to increase.
The uplift out of Guyana is growing. The oil industry is expanding, and we should see force oil sometime in 2020. With that force oil will come expanded carriage of individuals. Guyana is looking to be not only a hub for this part of the world, be it airlines coming out from Africa to Guyana and then on to the rest of the Caribbean or down to South America. We're also looking to see how many more air operators we can attract.
The challenges of small states are immense, so we must celebrate the modernization of our air navigation services and the introduction of aeronautical surveillance using the Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast System. VHF repeaters and ADS-B have been established at 4 geostrategic points in the country. The achievement of paperless license through the computerized licensing and examination system for pilots, aircraft maintenance engineer, and air traffic controllers is yet another green feather in our cap, as we are ready to play our part for the environment. Consistent with the national strategy of a green economy, Guyana has joined over 100 ICAO member states in submitting a state action plan for CO2 reduction. In October 2018, as a small developing state, Guyana joined the pilot phase of the Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme for International Aviation. These are the progressive steps that drive us as we prepare to connect the world to our forests, green savannas, rich minerals, and oil and gas. Aviation in Guyana is set to reach new heights. We remain committed to reaching the aspirational goals of ICAO. Our path has never been clearer, and our quest for excellence remains our steadfast aim. We extend a warm welcome to all the delegates from around the world. Welcome to our world, where the sky is the limit.
Thank you very much. And just to make sure you know who did it, is those guys right over there, up at the corner. So give them another round of applause. It's my task now to welcome somebody that you saw on the video, the Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, who worked indefatigably to make sure that this conference came off. And he traveled a lot, I think, to make sure that that happened. He even visited Guyana as Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority. He made sure that this happened, and as a result of that, we're going to ask him now to give the welcome remarks. Lieutenant Colonel.
Thank you very much, Master MC. I am overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by what I see here today, even though I was a part of the preparation. Master of Ceremonies, Honorable Prime Minister, Acting President, the Honorable Moses Nagamutu, Honorable Speaker of the House, Dr. Scotland, Honorable Ministers of the Government of Guyana, His Excellency President Bernard Aloui, the President of ICAO, Her Excellency Dr. Amani Abuzaid, Commissioner of Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union, visiting ministers, Ambassador LaRocque, Secretary General of CARICOM, Ms. Sophie Makonnen, our representative from the IDB, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, colleagues. If I forgot anyone, please accept my apology. I'm not a diplomat, I'm an aviator. But I must say that this is a profound occasion, not only for the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority and the industry, but for all Guyanese citizens. This is a realization of a dream which has been made possible by the tremendous support we received from the government of Guyana through the ministers responsible for the oversight of the aviation industry, the Honorable Minister David Patterson, who is the Minister of Public Infrastructure, and the Honorable Minister, Ms. Annette Ferguson, Minister within the Ministry of Infrastructure. The collaboration of these two ministers has resulted in this tremendous strides aviation has made over the past 2 years. And your presence here today is truly a testimony to that fact. Guyana is proud to host this conference, this International Civil Aviation Organization meeting. It is truly a historic occasion for this country. The theme, promoting connectivity for sustainable air transport development, it couldn't have come at a better time, particularly when small developing countries in the Caribbean, which depend a lot on tourism, is experiencing a decline in ridership of passengers. This air transport conference is hosted at a time when airlift in and out of Guyana is on the rise. Therefore, connectivity must be our trump word. In addition to this air transport meeting, Guyana will also host the third African Diaspora meeting on Friday, right here at the Ottertongue Center, with the key word for that meeting as being connectivity. And we attempt to find sustainable air links between our regions, the African continent and the Caribbean region. Guyana is on the path to experience rapid and explosive economic growth and development in various areas, including aviation. This expanded aviation sector will see an increase in airlift in and out of Guyana with the entrance of new operators and carriers in this market, even as we prepare to produce force oil in early 2020. It is therefore imperative for us as a region to remove ourselves from the rigid regulatory impediments that hinder our development as a region and foster ideas towards harmonizing our regulations, harmonizing and putting together development for our aviation sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Guyana is on the rise. Just a few days ago, the House of Assembly cleared the Civil Aviation Bill, or the Civil Aviation Act for Guyana. So we now have, or soon, I would say as soon as the President signs that document, a new Civil Aviation Act. Ladies and gentlemen, transport is an excellent example of the progress development because of the vital role it plays in our respective economies. 80 years ago, Guyana's aviation industry came to life through powered flights, just 80 years ago. This involvement in commercial aviation has been the foundation of our hinterland development. Neither the absence of a road network or navigable rivers stretching across our 83,000 square miles, none of that has hindered the development across our savannas and our forested regions. Despite being a small state, our operations are very diverse. Activities such as general aviation are becoming very popular, especially in the area of tourism and movement of mining activity or equipment, etc. This government pursues an open sky policy to complement our tourism growth. Therefore, the GCA follows a very liberal position with regard to the negotiation on air services agreement. It is also one of our strategic objectives to establish a strong economic regulatory framework for our aviation industry. Ladies and gentlemen, the right infrastructures are critical to the support of our booming industry. And therefore, we must step forward and change words into actions. The government is quite committed to achieving these goals. As many of you would have noticed, the upgraded project of the Chedijigan International Airport and its runways are almost completed. We still have a lot to do. At the same time, we should remain vigilant and do more and more. It is our duty to the flying public. The development we are seeing today are the results of the vision of our President, His Excellency David Arthur Granger, who could not be here for ill health. I would like to offer our deepest gratitude to His Excellency, and we pray for his speedy recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this session. I welcome all of you to the land of Guyana, and please take some time out to see the sights in Guyana and also to enjoy the cuisine we offer here. I thank you.
As Lieutenant Colonel Field leaves, he's the Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, we'd like to welcome remarks now from the representative of the Inter-American Development Bank.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Good morning. Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Moses Nagamutu, Vice Presidents, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Carl Greenidge, and Minister of Public Security, Mr. Kamran Ramjatan, Honorable Ministers of Cabinet, visiting ministers, the Commissioner of Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union Commission, Dr. Zaid, the President of the Council of ICAO, Dr. Aliu, Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Director of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Lieutenant Colonel Fields, members of the diplomatic corps, guests and special invitees, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies if I have forgotten anybody. Don't be offended. Good morning and thank you very much. It is my pleasure to be here with you this morning at the opening ceremony of ICAO Air Transport meeting in Georgetown, Guyana. I would like first to thank the Director General for his kind invitation and to thank the organizing committee for their diligent efforts, which is evidenced here today. A warm welcome to everyone, especially those who are visiting Guyana for the first time. I will take the liberty to welcoming you, even if I'm a foreigner. We at the Inter-American Development Bank are dedicated to improve lives, and in so doing are committed to improving the efficiency and the quality of air transportation throughout Latin America and the Caribbean region. Having invested over $175 million in aviation sector through the Caribbean, the bank has been actively supportive in Barbados, Bahamas, Belize, Guyana, Jamaica, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago, and continues to look for opportunities to partner with our regional clients. Air connectivity is a critical element to economic growth and development, especially for the small island nations of the Caribbean. Improved connectivity means additional air service, more trade, more tourism. These factors contribute to increased employment, opportunities, and benefit the wider economy. Approximately 334 million people travel by air in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean, as per the last IDB report of October 2018. Although that number is growing, the average number of flights per person in the region is still less than half than in some developed countries. This is a clear indicator that the sector still has a huge potential to grow. Nevertheless, the aviation sector in the region continues to face numerous challenges that need to be addressed. First, aviation policy is still restrictive in many countries, which puts limits on travel routes, travel frequency, and airline competition. Second, current airport infrastructure in the region has not been able to keep up with growing travel demand. Economic growth and rising income levels have all contributed to increased demand. In response, several governments in the region have worked to develop modern airports, some in partnership with private sector. Finally, the third challenge in the air transport, as per in the Latin America and the Caribbean, does not completely meet international safety standards and practices set by the Convention of International Civil Aviation. Looking further, and with the purpose of strengthening the participation of the bank in the sector and responding to these challenges, the IDB has recently developed an action plan that entails 3 major pillars: supporting and promoting national and regional air transportation, integration through greater liberalization of airspace, and mechanisms to support air travel to rural and remote essential routes. Promoting quality air infrastructure through innovative financial mechanism and leveraging private sector participation. And third, promoting access to safe and affordable, sustainable and air transportation services for users through improved technical regulation mechanisms. We are pleased to support the GCAA at today's event as we continue to collaborate to implement activities within these pillars. Further, your meeting in Georgetown, Guyana, as was indicated by the previous speaker, is indicative of the development to come here in the region. As you all know, Guyana economy is at a crossroad given recent discoveries of its oil and gas wealth. The country is projected to experience significant growth, and I think significant is even an understatement when you look at the IMF last reports. Numbers. For example, based on the IMF or World Economic Outlook of October 2018, which was updated, over the next 5 years, the annual average growth of real GDP, exports and imports, as production per capita will be in double digits, and not with 1 in front of the double digits, as per the report. This heightened economic activity will potentially increase demand for transportation services of both passengers and freight, and as such, improved connectivity will be fundamental to avoid bottlenecks and economic loss. Altogether, the IDB believes in strengthening air connectivity and legal and regulatory frameworks to stimulate market competition that contribute to economic development and growth. The IDB is committed to improving the efficiency, quality, and availability of air transportation in keeping with our institutional strategy of working to provide solutions to low productivity, promoting regional and international integration, and mitigating development constraints in a region where the tourism industry is an important source of livelihood. Finally, I want to thank the ICAO again for the invitation and reinforce that we work and will continue working closely with ICAO in many fronts to make the aviation sector more efficient, safe, and sustainable in our member countries. We look forward to the discussion taking place in the conference, and we invite you to actively participate. Many thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, the IDB representative in Guyana. Now for remarks from the African Union, the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy from the African Union will make her remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, Your Excellency, President of the ICAO, honorable ministers, brothers and sisters, honorable guests and distinguished people and of Caribbean and from the whole world. From the lands of the River Nile, the River Congo, Niger, Victoria Falls, Mount Kilimanjaro, to the land of many waters, Taito Falls, LaRocque Mountains, I send you my greetings. From the people and descendants of Kulthum, Caesoria Evora, Miriam Makeba, to the brothers and sisters of Dr. Eddie Grant, the people walking on sunshine, I wish to express our gratitude for this very warm welcome that we have received and the excellent facilities that have been provided to us since we arrived, and to organize this magnificent event and the one coming on Friday. We are here today to deliberate on how to promote the air transport connectivity between the motherland and the Caribbean, because the Caribbean, as you know, is our 6th region in Africa. And to ensure a sustainable air transport development in the CARICOM region between this region and Africa, as I said. I wish to thank the International Civil Aviation Organization under the able leadership of our dear brother, Dr. Aliou, President of the ICAO Council and the Civil Aviation Authority of Guyana, for organizing such a splendid gathering of African sons and daughters of the African continent and continental Africa. I'm pleased to see also by me here my brother from Ghana, Honorable Joseph Kofi Adda, Minister of Aviation, whom I greet. Your presence here today, sir, demonstrates the importance that we all have to the outcome of this forum, in particular reflecting on how we bring into effect the framework of the African Union's declaration of the Global African Diaspora Summit that was adopted in May 2012 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me say a few words about the African Union and the African Union Commission. The declaration of the Global Africa Diaspora Summit forms a policy framework coherent with the African Union strategy that we call Agenda 2063. In this agenda, we express the vision of what we desire for ourselves as Africans, for future generations and the continent. We want an integrated continent, politically united and based on the ideas of Pan-Africanism and the vision of Africans' Renaissance, an Africa with a strong cultural identity, common heritage, shared values and ethics, an Africa whose development is driven by its own people. As you know, Africa will double in population by 2050 and we will reach 2.5 billion people. We need also to take into consideration the diaspora population estimated at over 150 million, with 23 million in the Caribbean alone, over 40 million in North America, and over 8 million in Europe. One of our key topics during this forum is to reflect on how to develop air links and between the African states and diaspora, and His Excellency just alluded to that. I mean, he stressed on the connectivity aspect. This discussion has already started in Ghana last year, in March, whereby experts addressed how to promote tourism and air links between African states and the diaspora, especially in the Caribbean states. One of the recommendations of that Ghana March meeting was the need to facilitate the exchange of air traffic rights, revise existing bilateral air service agreements, and explore opportunities for multilateral agreements. I think we should follow up on these recommendations. Aviation provides a critical infrastructure link for the promotion of tourism between the Caribbean and the continent, and for linking the people of the Caribbean to the motherland. Aspiration 7 of our Agenda 2063 envisages an integrated continent with world-class integrative infrastructure that crisscrosses the continent, having a dynamic and mutually beneficial links with the diaspora. The African heads of states and governments have recognized that air transport is dynamic mode of transport. That is why we launched earlier this year the Single African Air Transport Market, and this was during the African Union Assembly in January. Very happy to see that the Caribbeans already adopted, or the Guyana already adopted, the Open Skies policy. This open sky policy in Africa that we launched earlier this year will also serve another major continental initiative. That's the African Continental Free Trade Area that was launched in this March. And you know, this will create one of the largest, if not the largest, markets in the world. That's a market of 1.2 billion people with GDP of $3.5 trillion. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we need to create a conducive environment for African businesses and the African diaspora to be able to invest, work, travel on the African continent and in the CARICOM states. We need to reflect on ways that would facilitate travel between the Caribbean and the continent. Tourism is important also for both continents. We need to reflect on how to celebrate and preserve our shared heritage. We therefore need to establish harmonized strategies for the sustainable development of tourism between the African continent and CARICOM states. And it is my pleasure, maybe in this regard, to invite CARICOM to visit the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa to continue this discussion. To quote our Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Ambassador Kwesi Kwartey, who was here last August in the region, he said, "My visits and meetings served as reaffirmation that Africans in the continent and in the diaspora as our sixth region need to work together collectively to maximize on the potential for economic, social, political, and cultural contribution and development to positively impact the living standards of Africans in the continent and those in the diaspora." So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of work ahead of us. And I'm really encouraged by the fact that we are all here determined to do it. And for that, we need hope. Where is Dr. Eddie Grant? Guyana, give us hope. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, the Commissioner from the African Union, for that inspiring address. In fact, she's already invited the CARICOM Secretary General to do some work. So I'm going to invite him now to do some more work, to respond. Thank you very much.
Honorable Moses Nagamoto, First Vice President and Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Assembly, members of Cabinet, Ministers of Transport, Honorable Joseph Kofi Adda, Minister of Aviation of Ghana, I beg your pardon, we almost co-opted you there. Almost co-opted you. Dr. Aliou, President of the International Civil Aviation Organization, Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy of the African Commission, and you bet I'll be visiting you sometime soon. Ms. Sophie Makonnen, representative of the Inter-American Development Bank, members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of the airline and the aviation industry, representatives of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I also recognize our youth who were here with us earlier. I also extend a warm welcome to you all, especially those who are visiting for the first time. This meeting, the culmination of consultations which commenced in 2014, brings together, through the International Civil Aviation Organization, the Caribbean community, and Africa. Recognizing the theme, promoting connectivity for sustainable air transport development, and the objective, the organizers have developed a holistic program for this three-day meeting. It highlights the interlinkages among air transport, measures to liberalize the industry, quality aviation infrastructure, and sustainable development. These interlinkages will be facilitated by the establishment of good regulatory practices and governance. A recent study by the Caribbean Development Bank titled Air Transport Competitiveness and Connectivity highlights that air connectivity is a critical element for economic growth and development, especially for the small island nations of the Caribbean. Improved, more regular, and more affordable air connections facilitate greater people-to-people contact, enable economies to attract more tourists, conduct more trade, and attract more foreign investment. I am pleased to note that this meeting includes a session on tourism, which has a natural link with transportation and will undoubtedly benefit from further expansion and improvements in this sector. At the outset, I wish to place on record the Caribbean community's support and appreciation for the work of ICAO, and our expectation that our enhanced collaboration will continue to be beneficial to the region. ICAO's cooperation with member states of our community, the CARICOM Secretariat, and the Caribbean Aviation Safety and Security Oversight System, CASOS, is of great value to our transportation sector, given its role in the economic and social development thrust of our community. The CARICOM Treaty requires the community's Council for Trade and Economic Development to, and I quote, promote and develop policies and programs to facilitate the transportation of people and goods. It has also been charged with coordinating the national transport policies of member states. The community transport policy, which is provided for in the treaty, calls for the provision of adequate, safe, and internationally competitive transport services for the development and consolidation of the CARICOM single market and economy. There is no doubt that safe, efficient, and cost-effective transportation within this region is of critical importance to our regional integration process. Given the geographic spread of our member states, such a transportation system is essential to fulfill the goal of free movement of people and goods. It is equally important in fostering the spirit of community among our people. It will also facilitate the growth of tourism that is so crucial to the economies of our member states. We took a significant step last February when our heads of government approved the CARICOM Multilateral Air Services Agreement. This is a major advance as it expands the scope for airlines owned by CARICOM nationals to go to new markets within the community. The agreement allows for no restriction on routes, capacity, or traffic rights among the participants. It should facilitate increased intra-regional travel and provide more cargo options for exporters and importers with resulting cost savings. In essence, it provides the required regulatory framework within which a CARICOM air carrier can provide air transport services between the member states which are parties to the agreement. Already, the community had established CASOS to facilitate the growth and development of aviation in the region through training, resource sharing, harmonization of policies and procedures, among other areas. Its member states seek to uphold the high standards of safety and security in aviation, as determined by the rules and regulations of the ICAO. Under the auspices of CASOS, work will soon commence on the development of a regional policy which will enhance the traveler experience in the region and minimize inconvenience. We are seeking to reintroduce the single security check for direct transit passengers on multi-stop intercommunity flights. This will no doubt be a welcome initiative for regional travelers. The actions we've been taking are not limited to our domestic situation. In pursuit of enhancing our global transportation links with the consequent benefit to our tourism product, a consultancy has been launched to formulate a regional airlift policy and strategy. Technical reviews and analytical work, along with stakeholder consultations in member states, are being undertaken in this regard. The objective of this initiative is to harmonize aviation policies in the community and support the expansion of the tourism sector as a major contributor to the sustainable growth of our member states. This is in keeping with one of the prime objectives of this forum. The presence here of the Honourable Minister from Ghana and the Commissioner from the African Union presents an opportunity to explore possibilities for air links and consequent increase in travel among the African diaspora. This will be in furtherance of the outcome of the special event on promoting air links between African states and the diaspora held in Ghana in 2017. The potential for improving tourism and trade between the African continent and our member states is vast. Let us use this opportunity to advance those prospects. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it would be remiss of me not to use such an occasion as this to garner support for two matters of concern to our community. Firstly, it is noted that this meeting will focus on practical solutions to remove existing regulatory impediments to air transport liberalization. This focus is therefore timely as the community seeks to give effect to the Community of Interest Principle, the COIP, with the designation of member states of a national carrier as the regional airline. This is very important to us since the principle adopted by ICAO in 2013 makes the community more competitive with respect to international air transportation services. We would like to apply that principle when the community enters into negotiations with third states with a view to obtaining flexible air transport arrangements. We seek your support in maintaining the COIP at the 40th ICAO Assembly scheduled for September 2019. Secondly, there are 36 seats on the ICAO Council, the governing body where decisions are made with respect to international civil aviation. It is most desirable that small states have a voice around the table to ensure that their concerns are represented. At present, one seat allocated to the Caribbean is being determined by a body which has a minority of CARICOM membership. We respectfully submit that CARICOM countries, which are members of the ICAO, represent a distinct geographical grouping and request a seat on that basis. CARICOM states are seeking to be represented in the category which applies to states that have been elected in order to achieve full geographical representation on the Council. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am hopeful that at the end of these deliberations, you would have made substantial strides in fulfilling our objective of promoting connectivity. Our region could only benefit from the positive outcomes of your discussions. I thank you and wish you a productive meeting.
Thank you to the Secretary General of CARICOM for making sure that he lobbied for that seat on the Council while offering us that one day we will have one security check throughout the Caribbean. Now to the Minister from Ghana. So many times Ghana is conflated with Africa, with Guyana rather than confused. So let me welcome the Minister of Aviation from Ghana to make his remarks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Prime Minister Moses Nagabotu, Dr. Olumiyiwa Bernard Aliu, President of the Council of ICAO, Honorable Annette Ferguson, the Minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Guyana, colleague ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Phil, Director General, Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Ambassador Irwin LaRocque, Secretary General, CARICOM, Dr. Mani Abu Zaid, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, African Union Commission, Ms. Sophie Makonnen, representative of the Inter-American Development Bank, heads of civil aviation agencies, airlines, and industry representatives, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you fraternal greetings from His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, and the people of Ghana as well. I'm delighted to be part of this important meeting on promoting connectivity for the sustainable development of air transport. Your Excellencies, before I proceed, let me very sincerely thank the government and people of Guyana, the Minister of Public Infrastructure, and the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority for graciously hosting this meeting. I also wish to express my personal gratitude to the Honorable Annette Ferguson, Minister within the Public Infrastructure Ministry, for the personal invitation for me to be here today. Your Excellencies, the welcome since my arrival in Georgetown, Guyana on Monday has indeed been very warm, and I'm very grateful for the support I've received so far. To me personally and my delegation, I feel we are at home for a number of reasons. Not simply because of the similarity in the names, Guyana and Ghana, not because of the similarity of the colors of the flags, not because of the food, which is similar to what we eat in Ghana, and of course the gold. I managed to buy some presents for my wife's birthday, which is similar to the gold that was produced in Ghana, the then Gold Coast. But what is perhaps most important to me is the fact that my guides yesterday took me to Revolution Park, where I saw the 1763 monument. There I saw standing a very tall and giant statue, a name inscribed in the monument, Kofi, was spelled C-U-F-F-Y. It should have been spelled K-O-F-I. Not simply because of the late Kofi Adda, but I'm also called Kofi. So that's why I felt at home. Home away from home is Ghana to me. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wish to take this opportunity to thank ICAO, the organizers and sponsors of this meeting, for their hard work to bring this strategic event to fruition. Air transport is no doubt a key enabler in the sustainable development of national, regional, and global economies. Indeed, every sector of our national economies derives significant benefits from air transport. Thus, the role of effective connectivity is critical in promoting a sustainable growth of the air transport industry and the global economy. In view of this, it is prudent and very strategic to embed appropriate air transport development policies, plans, and programs in our national and regional development frameworks in order to achieve the desired results of each nation. Thankfully, the two major actors in the public sector, politicians and technocrats, are well represented here in this meeting, and will take this note of this important development catalyst that aviation brings to the development of the nations. From the foregoing, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that our commitment to the connectivity agenda would engender inclusion and also bring up the less developed air transport markets to appreciable levels, as this will help in the transformation of the overall global air transport market. The actions required to consolidate the gains made so far in this area, and thus ensure that the needed actions that are required to give instruction to the various roadmaps should in this forum be given the needed attention, as the net effect of these efforts is the actualization of our effective vision, the sustainable air transport industry. I must add, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that it is not surprising that effective connectivity and sustainable air transport development have often become the main topics in most of ICAO's air transport meetings. The ICAO Regional Air Transport Conference held in Montego Bay, Jamaica, from the 7th to 9th October 2014, the Joint World Tourism Organization and ICAO at high-level forum on tourism and air transport for development held in Medellin, Colombia, on the 14th of September 2015, the meeting of the South American Civil Aviation Directors for the Sustainability of Air Transport Growth held in Asuncion, Paraguay, from the 14th to 6th of December 2017, the Sustainable Development of Air Transport in Africa meeting held in Antananarivo, Madagascar on 27 March 2015, and a special event on promoting air links between African states and the diaspora held in my own country on 30th March 2017 are only but a few of such meetings that have been held by the parties. I have no doubt in my mind that issues bordering on effective connectivity and sustainable air transport development would continue to take center stage in air transport meetings even as we go into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, pivotal to the effective connectivity and sustainable air transport development is a conducive regulatory regime, human capacity development, coupled with investment in appropriate infrastructure. As I admit that although air transport in Africa still has connectivity challenges, I must also state that the heads of state continue to place great emphasis and premium on connectivity and the sustainable development of air transport, and have therefore demonstrated this commitment by the signing of the Yamoussoukro decision in 1999, as well as the establishment of a single African air transport market, a flagship project of the AU Agenda 2063. 27 out of the 44 countries, including Ghana, which became signatories to the YD, have gone ahead to sign a solemn commitment to fully liberalize their air transport markets within Africa. May I bring to your attention, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Ghana, Senegal, and a few others have also invested heavily in infrastructure to complement ongoing efforts at transforming the industry. In Ghana in particular, a new ultra-modern Terminal 3 at the Kotoka International Airport in Accra has been completed, and work is aggressively underway to expand and modernize airports throughout the whole country, and up to about $1.2 billion have so far been spent on this effort. On other initiatives of the government, Ghana was one of the leading countries, along with the Ethiopian Airlines, when we flew the Ghana flag in what we call Ghana Airways and later Ghana International Airlines. That has since been brought down. Now, as we speak, we've concluded arrangements to have a flag carrier named the Home Base Carrier, which is intended not to get government to be center stage in running this airline, but also to get private participants to be part of it. Global dynamics have proven that our destinies are intertwined and that we can only succeed if we collaborate with one another. In light of this, I'm convinced that this meeting will enable policymakers, air transport regulators, and other stakeholders from the aviation industry gathered here to focus on priority areas, share experiences, and chart the way forward towards the realization of effective connectivity and sustainable air transport development. Next time we meet here, or any other forum, I'm quite sure that progress will be reported, reflecting the efforts made here. Once again, I thank the government and people of Ghana and ICAO for facilitating this important meeting and wish all of us fruitful deliberation. God bless us all.
And we'd like to thank you, the Minister of Aviation from Ghana, for those remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to some in-flight entertainment now. If we were traveling out of Guyana, we'd only be in Trinidad by now. So let's hear from the Gittins brothers, who made this song especially for this occasion, and they are going to come now to do the song Relinking Now, the Gittins brothers.
I am pleased to be a part of your country, Guyana, for the ICAO link-up. Let's build an airstrip to reach around the world, connect and linking up the world.
Let's start linking. It's time for connecting. ICAO. We're connecting and linking up the world. and sports. Show faith and unity, develop the infrastructure, so spread through the community. Develop that will take over. Hacking super schools for all. CJIG for peace. That's the thanks to Africa. It's to Guyana. Let's see the woman really and the charity. Gonna reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Building airship to reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Right now. See, we got the power to make this how we know. Right now. Let's work 10 more times for action now. Right now. See, we got the power to make this how we know. Right now. Let's work 10 more times for action now.
Emancipation, linking up one region and the region. It plays a vital role in self-preservation for you, me, and your whole generation. Stakeholders support we need. Development is more than we need. With unity, we must succeed, providing a foundation for global collaboration, liberalization. For ICAO, still transport foundation to nation, linking up invasion.
Building airship to reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Building airship to reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Right now. See, we got the power to make this happen now. Right now. Let's work 10 more times for action now. Right now. See, we got the power to make this happen now. Safe travel, safe passage, collaboration, economics, investment, and trade, competition. Oh yeah. Let's say hello, Africa. It's time to make the best. Don't have to travel around the world to meet Ghana or Nigeria. Let's come together and make this happen. Watch the rhythm flow. Let's get jobs in economic growth all around the world. Right now. See, we got the power to make this happen now. Right now. Let's work 10 more times for action now. Right now. See, we got the power to make this happen now. Right now. Let's work 10 more times for action. Yes, to reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Yes, to reach around the world. We're connecting and linking up the world. Right now.
If this were a flight, we would say we landed safely. Thank you so much, the Gittins brothers. And since we kind of landed, we're just going to go through immigration and customs now. So we're going to ask the minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, Minister Annette Ferguson, to come and address us. Minister Ferguson.
Thank you very much, Sessional Chairperson. Honorable Moses V. Nagamutu, Prime Minister and Vice President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. I also want to recognize the Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Bartland Scotland. I also want to recognize Vice Presidents Kyle Greenidge and Kemraj Ramjatan, respectively, my fellow colleague ministers, His Excellency Dr. Bernard Alou, ICAO Council President, Her Excellency Dr. Amani Abu Zir, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, African European Commission, Ambassador Irwin LaRocque, Secretary General CARICOM, members of the diplomatic community, ICAO Council members, Lieutenant Colonel Field Director General, Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, Ms. Sophie Makonnen, representative of the Inter-American Development Bank, distinguished participants, and members of the aviation industry. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to you all. Before I commence this morning, I would like to thank the organizers for this event, led by the Director General of Civil Aviation Authority, Lieutenant Colonel retired Egbert Field. And sir, I must commend you for a job well done. I'm also pleased to welcome all participants from around the world. We are pleased to host you at this, our first ICAO Air Transport meeting. This meeting is a very important one for Guyana and the rest of the region, as it is building on the outcome of other meetings, such as the ICAO Regional Air Transport Conference, which was held in Jamaica. The Joint World Tourism Organization, ICAO High-Level Forum on Tourism and Air Transport for Development, which was also held in Colombia. The South American Regional Directors General Meeting held in Paraguay, and a special event on promoting air links between African states and the diaspora held in Ghana. As Minister that oversees the work of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, I'm also pleased with the progress we have made as a state in relation to our obligations under the Chicago Convention. The government fully supports the aviation sector, and this is reflected in many ways in the number of bilateral agreements which were negotiated with other states. Just last December, 21 air services agreements were approved by the Cabinet for signature, where many of those agreements are between Africa, European, and Asian states. Our open skies policy, where Guyana grants 5th freedom rights for passenger traffic and 7th freedom rights for cargo traffic. Development of modern regulations to address the innovation and development of the aviation sector, and this was brought out in the Director General's report. The facilitation of private-public collaboration for development of aviation, as demonstrated in the facilitation of privately owned airlines to operate. Regionally, we remain committed to foster the development of air transport within CARICOM, as Guyana was amongst the first 2 countries to sign the new multilateral air services agreement for CARICOM states. This is a liberalized agreement, as it allows free market access for all CARICOM airlines throughout the Caribbean. This is an embodiment of integration, as it makes us compliant with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. On the international stage, Guyana's compliance with ICAO is indeed on the increase, and we remain committed towards green aviation. This is demonstrated in our participation, the ICAO Carbon Offsetting and Reduction Scheme from International Aviation, which is slated to commence in 2021. As proud host of this ICAO Air Transport meeting, I, along with my colleague, Minister David Patterson, we are pleased to say that we are indeed elated that decisive steps are taken to create a direct link between Africa and the diaspora, especially the Caribbean region. Many of you delegates attending this meeting would have traveled through 2 to 3 different time zones and for a period of 3 days to attend this very important meeting and for the sacrifice we have all made. My appeal to all of us is that we should let us turn our words into action right now, and let us make 3 days of travel only 5 hours as we promote connectivity for for the sustainable development of air transport. In closing, Excellencies and distinguished attendees, welcome to our beautiful world, Guyana, where the sky is the limit. On behalf of the Ministry of Public Infrastructure and by extension the Government of Guyana, I wish each and every one of you a very fruitful meeting as you enjoy our warmth, Guyanese hospitality. With those few words, may God richly bless us all, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Ferguson. And I'm sure by the end of the meeting, we're going to be working on that 5-hour link that you're talking about. Now to the President of the Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, Dr. Alawi, for his opening address.
Excellency, the Prime Minister and Acting President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Honorable Moses Nagamutu, the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly of the Republic of Guyana, Honorable Ministers David Patterson, Anne Ferguson, and thank you to Honorable Minister Kofi Adda for coming up from all the way. The Secretary General of the CARICOM, Ambassador LaRocque, the Commissioner of Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union Commission, Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, the representative of IDB, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be with you here today in the lovely city of Georgetown and to have the privilege of addressing this second ICAO Air Transport meeting for the Caribbean region. I wish to express my heartfelt appreciation to His Excellency President Grange for the excellent facilities and warm hospitality extended to all of us, and to wish His Excellency speedy and complete recovery. I also wish to thank the African Union and the Caribbean community for organizing this special session on promoting air links between Africa and the diaspora. It is my hope that we will deliver some far-reaching decisions at this event, including on the establishment of an aviation development financial framework for the African and Caribbean regions. This will need to be structured such that it can be meaningfully integrated into related African Union and Caribbean planning. One of the greatest benefits of aviation is linking people, places, and cultures, and our continuous efforts to promote air links between the African states and the diaspora will eventually result in some significant socio-economic benefits for both regions. Aviation has become an essential component of our global society and is a crucial driver of economic, social, and cultural development worldwide. Air transport is by far the safest mode of transportation, and today it supports more than 62.7 million jobs globally and generates some $2.7 trillion in economic activity. International aviation carried 4.1 billion passengers and 56 million tons of freight on 37 million flights in 2017. These figures are further projected to double in the next 15 years. We must also recognize that for landlocked developing countries and small island developing states, especially, aviation represents a critical and essential lifeline for regional and global trade. 4 years ago, thanks to the support of the government of Jamaica we gathered in Montego Bay for the first ICAO Regional Air Transport Conference. On that occasion, government policymakers, air transport regulators, industry representatives, and others who were present identified several key issues and priorities for the sustainable development of air transport in the region. They also underscored the need for states to put in place harmonized aviation and tourism policies to further support safe, secure, and reliable air services. Since then, the region and indeed the entire world has continued to enjoy enhanced air connectivity, expanded passenger and cargo market access, more competitive pricing, and other positive socio-economic contributions of aviation. To further optimize these benefits in the face of projected traffic growth, states must not only continue to improve compliance with ICAO's global standards, but also foster an operating environment under which the industry can enjoy dependable and sustainable profitability. Such efforts should include the liberalization and modernization of the regulatory framework for international air transport, which is still being predominantly governed by a complex patchwork of over 5,000 bilateral air services agreements and arrangements. These have greatly fragmented the air services markets. However, by removing this key impediment and streamlining the global regulatory framework, together we can achieve more harmonized operations in line with ICAO's core compliance objectives, while reaping many further safety and economic benefits that will ensue. Recognizing that civil aviation is very dynamic and often an early adopter of new technologies, air transport policies and regulations should also aim to facilitate innovation and transformation. Policies should be designed to accommodate modernization, harmonization, and the possibility of convergence of regulatory approaches and regimes of states. And the promotion of connectivity, competition, transparency, and consumer choice should also be the key and overarching goals. In order to assist states in their efforts to modernize and harmonize their regulatory frameworks on a multilateral basis, ICAO is developing international agreements by which states can further liberalize air cargo services and ownership and control. To improve the efficiency and cost effectiveness of states' air services negotiations and consultations, the annual ICAO Air Services Negotiation Event, commonly known as ICANN, is now greatly appreciated by our member states. This facility provides states with a central platform to negotiate their air services agreements on a one-stop basis, and I will encourage your state's participation at its next iteration from 10 to 14 December in Nairobi, Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, we are conscious that as liberalization progresses, the aviation operating environment becomes more competitive and market-driven. This, in turn, creates the need for more protections for the rights of passengers. To assist with this objective, the ICAO Assembly has endorsed a set of high-level core principles on consumer protection. These guidelines can be of tremendous assistance to states and industry as they seek to adopt regulations and practices for passengers which are globally consistent and which, in turn, foster the greater consumer certainty and economic prosperity. Another key priority for us to remain cognizant of is the continuous and unfortunate proliferation of taxes and levies on aviation operations. This inevitably have a negative long-term impact on both operators' bottom line, the general sustainability of air services, and accordingly are at odds with ICAO's related policies, which seek to foster a reasonable yet more dependable and sustainable generation of government revenues. We should recognize here, for example, that in this region today, there are about 130 different taxes and fees, the great majority of which have no relation whatsoever to cost recovery for aviation-related services or infrastructure expenditures. The share of these taxes as a percentage of ticket prices varies between 15 and 20%. And I cannot state more strongly that all such levies must be assessed for their long-term impacts and not only to be looked at as a means to generate short-term government revenues. We are living through one of the most challenging phases of Asian traffic growth in the history of our sector today. And as many of you must have noticed, ICAO has been working very hard to raise global awareness and political will toward government's development, expansion, and modernization of national aviation infrastructure. The planning priorities of the aviation sector should also be pursued on an integrated basis with related multimodal and urban planning initiatives. We must bear in mind that the strategically planned development of air transport, complemented by due commitments and investments in favor of civil aviation resources and legislation that support increased ICAO compliance, in turn drives increased socio-economic development and greater local prosperity for states and the regions. This explains why we must seek to accommodate increases in air traffic demand with no adverse impact on our safety and efficiency performance, and by respecting the diversified needs of all system providers and users as well. States are further encouraged to take pragmatic measures to ensure a transparent, stable, and predictable investment climate to support aviation development. This can be accomplished by engaging multiple stakeholders, diversifying funding sources, and elevating the role of the private sector, including through private investments, business reform, private finance initiatives, public-private partnerships, and various incentive schemes. ICAO, for its part, has embarked on helping states to develop better business cases and foster partnerships with donors and investors under our ICAO World Aviation Forum initiatives. The last two ICAO IWAF events we conducted were organized in Abuja, Nigeria, and Fortaleza, Brazil. By convening these events in the regions, our hope has been to promote related investment opportunities and develop a specific roadmap and framework to address local infrastructure and development needs on a more collaborative and coordinated basis. In this regard, let me just say that I'm very pleased that the representative of the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, is here. Next time we meet, I want to know how much investment you have made in the aviation sector. We also coordinate, under our No Country Left Behind initiative, the assistance and capacity building many states require in order to effectively implement ICAO's global standards and policies. In addition, ICAO is continuing to drive a great deal of progress globally with respect to our other core strategic objectives and matters pertaining to our continuing safety, security, and environmental objectives must continue to be pursued with meaningful commitments. I have noted, for instance, that the accident rate for the overall Pan-American Regional Aviation Safety Group rose rather significantly in 2017, from 2.1 to 3.5 accidents per million departures. But at the same time, it was reassuring that the totality of these events resulted in just one fatality. With respect to aviation security, your region now has a detailed Global Aviation Security Plan roadmap as adopted this past August at the ICAO Regional Aviation Security Conference hosted by Panama. It is noteworthy that a sustained level of secure and safe civil aviation operations contributes toward preventing human, economic, financial, and other losses, and that a strengthened aviation security provides a more conducive environment for economic growth and development. I therefore look forward to your active participation at the high-level aviation security conference at ICAO later this month, as a matter of fact, next week, where we will consider some further potential adjustments to the plan based on the outcomes of the regional aviation security conferences organized in 2017 and 2018. And in the area of aviation environmental protection, I wish to emphasize that in line with the direction of the 39th Assembly of ICAO, the ICAO Council adopted the CORSIA SAPS, that is the Carbon Offsetting Reduction Scheme in Aviation, that Honorable Minister Anne Ferguson mentioned. We adopted that this past June in the form of a new Volume 4 to Annex 16 to the Convention on International Civil Aviation. Subsequently, consistent with our No Country Left Behind initiative, significant work is being done now to provide technical assistance to our member states towards meeting the 1st January 2019 milestone, when states and their aircraft operators will be expected to start reporting their emissions under the CORSIA. And let me please add that we are very grateful for Guyana's recent formalization of its commitment to participate in CORSIA from its outset. Ladies and gentlemen, in concluding now, I wish to acknowledge the significant progress and achievements of states in this region, and particularly the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, which was recognized last November with the award of a Council President certificate for its more effective implementation of ICAO's international standards and recommended practices for civil aviation safety oversight. I also wish to emphasize that for ICAO's 75th anniversary next year, we'll be looking to your governments to help us celebrate all that aviation has contributed and is poised to further contribute to the peace and prosperity of nations in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and around the world. Nepal, for instance, has kindly offered to place an ICAO flag at the pinnacle of Mount Everest during 2019. And we'll be very grateful if the states present with us here today could also consider how they can help to celebrate the role of civil aviation in their own countries. ICAO's Next Generation Aviation Professionals Program is also developing a series of aviation innovation competition concepts for our 75th anniversary year, whereby youth will be asked to submit their ideas, concepts, and prototypes relevant to the future of flight. Implementation kits are being prepared to help your civil aviation authorities conduct this contest locally in your states and region. And our goal will be to have your national winners feed into a subsequent regional and finally a global selection process through ICAO. The ICAO Council has just completed its review of the comprehensive series of proposed 75th anniversary secretariat activities, which have been planned. I will be in touch with you again soon to highlight further suggestions and opportunities whereby your states can take part in this important celebration with us. Furthermore, the upcoming 40th ICAO Assembly is rapidly approaching, and we will all be meeting again September, October next year to drive further progress on many of the items and priorities we have discussed together with you today. In closing, I would like to acknowledge again His Excellency Honorable Prime Minister Nagamoto and our hosts from Guyana for their very generous hospitality, and encourage you all to take full advantage of the unique opportunity this meeting presents to share your experiences and perspectives. And one more word. Congratulations to my friend, the Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority, for all the hard work that you have done to make this meeting a success that it is already. Thank you.
And thank you to the President of the Council of the ICAO. As I said, if this were a flight, we would be going through the gates to greet our party who will be meeting us. And to take us through that process, we have the Honorable Prime Minister of Guyana, and I'm told I have to give him a little introduction because not everybody in the world knows him. All of us in Guyana know him, but Moses Verasamy Nagamutu is the first son of Wim to become a member of parliament and a minister of government. And you could always fact check this just in case. Huh? He's a former teacher. He's also the first to become a journalist, an attorney at law, and an author from the fishing village. And I said, fact check it. We tend not to fact check so much. He's an accomplished writer. He's written 2 novels. I'm sure he may have one downstairs to sell you. He has received several awards, including an honorary doctorate. He doesn't use it as much as some other people do. That's a Guyanese joke. He's been honored by the Tamil Nadu in India, and that's because his heritage is from that area. And it is my pleasure to welcome the Prime Minister of Guyana, the Honorable Moses Verasamy Nagamutu.
Thank you. Kindly take your seats. I suppose the moderator, Enrico Wolford, might have felt that if he didn't give me that introduction that hits the sky, aviation term, that his boss would have thought unkindly of him. I happen to be the subject minister for information, and of course, as a journalist, I had shared company on the turf with Enrico for many years. So if he imputed some fake news in what he just said, you'll judge him in accordance with the quality of his stewardship in journalism and broadcasting for many years. His Excellency, Dr. Olumuyiwa Bernard Aliyu, I hope I get as close to that, ICAO Council President, Her Excellency Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, African Union Commission, Ambassador Irwin LaRocque, Secretary General of CARICOM, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Barton Scotland, Honorable Vice President and Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge, Honorable Kamraj Ramjatan, Vice President, Minister of National Security, Honorable Ministers of Transport and Infrastructure, David Patterson and Annette Ferguson, respectively, Honorable Minister of State Joseph Harmon, Minister of Business, Minister of Public Affairs, Minister of Public Telecommunication, Minister of Public Health, and other ministers, and of course, the latest brand new minted Dr. Eddie Give Us Hope Grant, Ambassador, I'm told, of the ICAO conference, members of the diplomatic corps, ministers from Ghana, and other ministers who might be present here, Mrs. Sophie Makonnen, representative of the Inter-American Development Bank, and I can testify that the bank has been an active player in the aviation sector, distinguished participants, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to bring you greetings from His Excellency President David Granger and the government of Guyana. And I'd like to say that we are sorry for the inconvenience we might have caused you for having this meeting commence later than it ought to, because His Excellency has returned last evening from Cuba, where he was undergoing medical attention, and we had a interfaith prayers with him this morning, which is why we were late. And of course, if you see that almost every member of the cabinet is here, it's because they were all together with us in prayers. I am pleased to be in the distinguished presence of leaders of this prestigious premier civil aviation organization, which is holding for the very first time its air transport meeting in our beautiful Guyana. Guyana is pleased to host this air transport meeting in collaboration with the International Civil Aviation Organization, CARICOM, and the African Union under the theme Promoting Connectivity for Sustainable Air Transport Development. I was informed about the passing of the beloved mother of His Excellency Dr. Bernard Aliou, and wish to say that your attendance at this event, Excellency, under such circumstances is a solid demonstration of your leadership and commitment to ensure that ICAO delivers on its promises as a UN organization. We express our sympathies to you and trust that our warm Guyanese hospitality will bring some measure of comfort to you at this difficult time of grief and loss. You are meeting in Guyana at a time when our aviation industry has strengthened itself with a revised civil aviation law, which was approved by our National Assembly only on Monday last. And I see I didn't mention my friend's acknowledge his presence, but he is very much a driver, Lieutenant Colonel Fields, of this revised civil aviation law, which we have approved just a night ago. The revision over the last 2 years has brought our law fully in line with the Chicago Convention and has enhanced safety and security provisions. Aviation in Guyana, as we heard before, is the primary channel to connect internationally, but also with a land space of 83,000 square miles, some 80% of which is pristine tropical rainforest. Aviation is vital to connecting our coastland with riverine and hinterland communities, most of which are populated by our indigenous peoples. Our aviation sector is moving in the right direction, and we are grateful for the commendation of ICAO, and it is growing. The figures were provided earlier in the informatics that we saw before the commencement of these speeches, that last year alone there were over 650,000 passengers who moved through our country, a small country of below 1 million people. This is significant. Our compliance with ICAO standards and recommended practices are up, increased from 44% to 64%, with projection to reach at least 80% by December of this year. With first oil mere months away, Guyana is becoming an attractive market for airlines, and it is a preferred business and tourist destination. Last week, American Airlines made its inaugural flight to Guyana. And as I wrote in my last Sunday's column, it is stated that Guyana is a very, very important new market for American Airlines. In terms of connectivity, this has increased the number of destinations being served out of Guyana, which remains connected to major hub networks of the world, such as Panama, JFK, Miami, Toronto, Port of Spain, and Barbados. While Guyana is pleased to display its achievement within the aviation sector, this ICAO air transport meeting is not mainly about Guyana, but about promoting connectivity among and within the different regions of the world. Here in the Caribbean region, air transport is a critical factor for the viability and sustainability of the tourism product which the Caribbean sells. The Caribbean region is always looking at new ways to promote connectivity because of the spread of different states across the region and the small size of many of the islands of the region. In July 2018, the heads of government of the various CARICOM member states approved for signature a liberal multilateral air services agreement. This allows for free movement of airlines within the CARICOM region to operate unimpeded in any member state. It is our government's view that if we are going to promote connectivity, these are the initiatives that are necessary to facilitate the movement of people, goods, and services. The removal of traditional restrictions on ownership configuration of airlines and the liberalization of cargo markets using Open Skies Air Services Agreement with provision for 7 freedom, traffic rights for cargo movement are what is needed to improve connectivity and access. International aviation is going through a period of unprecedented change. Guyana is poised to take advantage of this change. And as you have heard and you have experienced when you get here, our expanded runway at the Chedijagan International Airport and the new terminal with state-of-the-art facilities, Guyana is in a better position to handle larger aircraft and process more passengers. Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean look forward with renewed confidence at expansion of links with non-traditional markets, such as with the African Union. Africa and the Caribbean are joined by the Atlantic crossing and by history and culture. It is long overdue that we should have air transport connectivity, and I warmly welcome the representative from the African Union and from the African continent to this conference and to Guyana. Tourism is the backbone of our economy, not only of the Caribbean region, but all regions, including Africa. So maintaining and expanding air connectivity is vital for economic growth and the livelihood of our peoples across the region. I know that you have a packed program, and of course, standing here and delivering these remarks add to the burden of your program. So I will now ask that you enjoy your stay in Guyana and that you find some time to visit areas outside of the conference hall. At least I know my friend Kofi has gone out somewhere and found something that promotes connectivity in a real sense between Guyana and Africa. And of course, since our names, countries' names have been in a very poetic way, I would say, it has always been either Ghana or Guyana. In a sense, really, it shows that we are brothers. And sometimes we do try to trade names, but we'll look kindly at what you said, whether it should be C-U-F-F-Y or K-O-F-I. But of course, you will help us to win your case if you help us to promote the connectivity so we understand that we are in the same wavelength, we are in the same plateau, we are in the same open skies, and we are promoting common interests. I take pleasure, Excellencies, members of ICAO Council and other industry members, and you're so many, it's like having a dossier on who's who in the aviation industry here. I take pleasure on behalf of His Excellency President Granger and the government of Guyana in welcoming you here and to declare this conference open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, for that inspiring address and invitation to do some other things while you're in Guyana. And I'm sure you're willing to accept his invitation. The Prime Minister will also take a photo op. What's a politician without a photo op? In the West Wing, the West Wing of this building. Not that West Wing, this West Wing. Just after the session is over, and he's going to invite the ministers of government, both Guyanese and foreign government, the ICAO Council President, the African Union Commissioner, the Secretary General of CARICOM, the IDB, the council ministers from the Cape Verde, Cote Verde, the Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, and that will take place in the press room located in the West Wing. Sorry, I stumbled a little there, but this is not my handwriting. It's some doctor wrote it for me at the back there. Then the other housekeeping aspect of it is that we're going to go directly to lunch. The good thing about having a delay is that you get both a snack and the lunch at the same time. So we will have that immediately after this session. But before I close the session, I'm going to ask the Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority to just say a few words of thanks.
I am aware that I'm between you and lunch, and I'll follow the Prime Minister's advice and keep it short. Dr. Bernard Alu, when you met us, the Honourable Minister, and I in Nigeria last year, and you asked us to host this conference, you promised us that you will be here, that you will come to this conference if we host it. We've hosted it, or we're hosting it, and I want to say thank you for finding the time to be here. And this is taking all things into consideration, as the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about, the passing of your mom. But I want to say a big thank you. And I would like the audience to give President of ICAO a thank you for being here. Thank you. Honourable Ministers of the government, I know it's a short day for you, having been with the President and now here, and there's lots of work on your desks waiting. I want to say, after a holiday, thanks to you for taking the time, for gracing this audience with your presence, and we do appreciate it tremendously. To all the delegates coming from afar, from Africa, Europe, Asia, the various countries, thanks for being here. Without you, there would be no conference. But being here, we'll be able to turn words into actions and to continue the process of taking aviation into the future. I thank you. To the media, because anything that happens in here, this is not Vegas, where what happens here stays here. You, the media, are able to transport it out. And I want to say thanks for being here and for transmitting everything that happens in here to outside. We have a number, not only the businesses, but I'm looking at the youths, at the next generation. They must be aware of all the collaboration, all the discussions that are taking place in this house, that they will benefit from in the future. So thank you, media, for gracing us with your presence. To all the protocol officers, here I know it's a little confusing for me, remembering who is from where and what level and what status and positions each individual holds. But you, the protocol officers, are there to hold our hands through. And thanks a lot. The police for taking care. I mean, we are not in the Wild West, but at the same time, we need a little bit of protection every now and then. So thanks to the police department. Honorable Vice President, thank you for gracing us with your presence and your security attachments. Transport to this cultural center, which has been newly renovated. I want to say thank you for working with us, for bringing it to this standards, this level. And kudos to you, Cultural Center. Thank you very, very much. The Seventh-day Adventist students, thanks a lot. I know you enjoyed it, being away from school today, but please go back to school. Thanks, however. Someone must be taking the notes for you. The tune you heard, that's our team tune. And it was all devised and organized and arranged by my Director of Air Transport, Mr. Saeed Suleiman. So to G Money, I don't know if it's Guyana Money, they call themselves, but I know it's G Money. I hope it's good money. To that team, I want to say thank you for such a melodious and heart-thumping. You know what it does? It brings Guyana and the rest of the diaspora together with the African continent. You listen to the beat and like you're there in the center. And this is what it's all about. The union of our continents, not forgetting a little bit of Asian rhythm also in there. So G-Money Brothers, thank you. Last but not least, I couldn't do this alone. My fantastic team in the Civil Aviation Authority, the support I got from those guys and gals, you saw some of them in acting as ushers in their lovely dark jackets. The others there at the registration desk. The team at the Civil Aviation Authority is a team. The support is tremendous. They worked late at night, at 9, 10, even last Saturday when I was sick all day. I crawled out at 9 o'clock to get to the 9 o'clock in the evening to see what was happening. And they were there still packing the bags and the magazines. Oh, they're tremendous. I want you to give them a big round of applause. The team from the Civil Aviation Authority, headed by the coordinator and the National Organizing Committee. Thank you very much. I will allow you to have lunch. So that's my gift to you. Lunch, ladies and gentlemen.
And nothing further is left but to say goodbye to all of you for this session. The photo op will take place in the West Wing. Then the panelists for session 1 are asked to stay here for the speakers, are asked to stay here for just 5 minutes. I think they want to have a meeting with you. There are booths downstairs. The jackets are made by Swissport. They've got vouchers available if you want to buy Guyana's gold. The facilities here at the Arthur Cham Convention Center. If you have any problems, just contact them if you want to get on Wi-Fi. So there are lots of little things to do. So please join us for lunch and snacks.